TBS.
Funding for this program was provided by the Annenberg CPB Project.
Now, what do we have here?
Once upon a time, this was our image of American preschool education. Everybody looked the same, everybody acted the same, everybody was expected to learn in the same way.
Go, guys, go!
But times have changed. Now we live in a diverse, multicultural, multi-ethnic world. And as teachers, we have a tremendous responsibility to not only teach multiculturally, but whenever we can, to practice it in our own classroom. I'm Hendrick, author of The Whole Child and your guide to this video series. In this program, we're going to look at the ways in which we can help by providing, when we can, a multicultural and non-sexist education for the children in our care. We'll see children and teachers in action from a number of early childhood programs, family daycare homes, Head Start, university-based schools, and private infant centers and preschools. And we'll hear teachers discuss some of the typical problems they face and their solutions when trying to create a respectful, open environment for all their children and families. Children like to feel good about themselves. They enjoy the feeling of not only knowing who they are, but also that others appreciate them, respect them, and value their participation in and contribution to the group. Children note differences between people's skin color and gender at a very early age.
Hey, Dad. Hey, Dad. Hi. Here's our sister. Here's our sister.
Which is why it's so important to begin a program of cross-cultural, non-sexist education as early as possible.
What we're going to do is, we're going to go over to the...
Our message is a simple one, that being different, whether in sex, race, culture, or ability, does not mean inferior.
Or everything was...
Not right there. You said you wanted that shirt, now wear it.
Doña, Ian gets to decide what he wants to wear, just like you picked that pretty white dress for wearing.
Our challenge in this program is to learn how to teach the principle of equity. That, while we don't all have to get along with each other all the time, all people do have the right to be treated with equal respect, care, and consideration. In teaching equity, we want to emphasize 4 basic principles. That every child has the unique, treasurable gift of individuality to share with others. No matter how unique or different a person is, we each share basic human needs in common with everyone else. All children, no matter their sex, color, abilities, or cultural group, should be encouraged to explore the full range of their abilities and potential. And finally, we want to emphasize to our children that every individual is a part of a cultural group that has many special qualities to share with others. Of course, all this is much easier said than done. Teaching about cultural differences can be a very tricky and sensitive business. We have to be careful not to convey to children that those from a different culture are peculiar or strange. And when we encourage a child to share his cultural heritage with others, we want to avoid making him feel like a spectacle. It's a real tightrope. The question is, where do we begin? How do we take the first step?
Did you know that Kwanzaa goes on for 8 days? It's a celebration with families and food. Do you know why we're doing this cooking activity?
The first thing we should do as teachers and caregivers is to acquire as much knowledge ourselves as we can about different cultures, ethnic groups, and lifestyles.
See, that's like Chinese letters, like ABC, our ABCs, these are like the Chinese ABCs, all right?
Look, let's go to work.
The children's families are wonderful resources for this kind of information. Children learn by our example.
I have 7.
And if we show understanding, appreciation, respect, and acceptance for different cultures and life experiences, you can be sure the children in our care will, too.
Can you help me tonight?
Just let the children know. I mean, everybody is different, but different doesn't necessarily mean bad. You know, I guess there's just too much of that going on. Too much segregating, too much, you know, I'm this and you're that. That's bad. Not, I know why it's bad, but because people say. And, you know, there's no basis for it. It's just one person's opinion that went rampant or whatever. We're trying to say we all have differences, but those differences are what make us unique.
Even beginning with looking at our eyes, our eye color, looking at our hair color, looking at our skin color. So starting with self and how we're different. And that's okay. And we play games and do different charts just to recognize that your skin might be a different color than mine, but look at how wonderful that is. Look at all the different colors we have in our room.
Guess what I see? I see 2 boys. Does anybody else see 2 boys? Yeah. One with blonde hair, one with black hair. One that's very fair, because what do we have to do when we take John outside? He has to get lots of sunscreen. And one that's a deep, dark, rich chocolate color. But they're both boys, so they're the same, but they're different.
It is very important that we communicate openly and directly with our children about issues of race, ethnicity, and gender.
Does anybody know what is the same about us?
No, our skin.
We all have skin. And
we can start by simply not shying away from answering some very basic questions or comments our children may have, comments that are not intended to hurt.
Our ears are different.
For example, I once heard a child ask in surprise, "You mean you're black all over?" Or we might hear, "How come he walks so funny?" Or, "No girls here, this is a guy thing." Questions like these should never be hushed up. Instead, they should be regarded as not to be missed opportunities to provide matter-of-fact answers, just as we would answer questions about why the dogs are barking or how come the whistle blows every day at noon. So what do you do when you hear one of your children teasing or making cruel comments about another's disability, skin color, sex, or cultural heritage? First of all, let's not panic or overreact. Children don't grow up in a vacuum. They may live in a family where such attitudes are tolerated, if not reinforced. Not to mention that we all live in a country that is having its own struggle with racism and bigotry. But no matter what the children hear in other circumstances, ethnic and gender slurs or hostile remarks about another's appearance or disability are not acceptable at the center. It isn't enough just to say, "Don't say that, it hurts his feelings." We need to do more. We need to make sure the attacker recognizes why he's really angry. It isn't because someone's black or Mexican or a girl. It's because he took your trike or gave you a push. That's what the angry youngster needs to deal with, just as the insulted child needs to learn more acceptable ways of getting what he wants.
I'm not your friend anyway. Go away, Larry. I'm moving my cubby. Natalie, I'm going to go away. I'm Natalie. I am not Natalie.
Remember, children don't have to accept all other children, but they do have to respect them. The question is, what can we do to help?
It was a good choice if you're asking. Would you like to come over and talk to Fernie about it? Not right now? Okay. When you're ready, you can go talk to her about it.
It may take a little time and extra effort on our part.
She's fussing at her. Leah's fussing at her and let her hurt her feelings.
But when these insults fly, our job is to work with the attacker and point out what he's really upset about, what the true source of his anger is, so he doesn't transform that anger into prejudice.
Her hair is beautiful. Didn't ask me. So I did not say that.
At the same time, victims of such attacks should have ample opportunity to protest and speak up for themselves. Insults do hurt, and we can't pretend they don't.
Your face is looking pretty sad.
While acknowledging this, the teacher should also make a big point of saying that just because someone says you're something doesn't make it true. While these are not easy or necessarily comfortable situations for us to confront, they can also provide excellent opportunities for us to clear up confusion and to provide accurate information that is vital if our children are to develop healthy attitudes about race, gender, and identity.
That sounds like a perfect idea. I bet your bear will make you feel better. I did have a group of girls playing, and one girl said to the other one, "You get the doll with the brown skin. That's the ugly doll. You get that one because you have brown skin." And it was very shocking to me to hear that. So it was my job to walk over and talk about skin, and that just because this child's skin was a different color didn't mean that she was any different from you, and that's very beautiful, and that doll was very beautiful. And that's why we have lots of different colored dolls, because we are different colors. And it's beautiful to be all different colors. And so that's why we provide those dolls, so they become more aware of that. But it is tricky, and sometimes you do want to mention that also to the parents, so the parents can realize possibly what this child is thinking, and maybe they picked up something wrong on something on TV or something, to try to get to the bottom of it and then be very aware of that.
I had a little boy in my program who sort of used a derogatory word. And what I did was I said, we don't use those words here. But every time you use a positive word, what we'll do is we'll talk about that word. And he started, one day he didn't say the word, the next day he didn't say the word, and he started to build on his own vocabulary. So I think when you give a child specific praise and give them specific things to do, it helps them a lot.
There may not be much we can do about the racism, bigotry, and prejudice in the rest of the world. But in our own classrooms, there's much work to be done to promote awareness and acceptance of diverse peoples and cultures. We can start by providing our children with access to a wider range of multicultural materials on a regular basis. Let's frequently look over our environment and materials with a multicultural eye, while always remembering that the primary purpose of offering these is to generate positive feelings, not teach facts. Do we offer our children paints and crayons in a range of skin tones? Do we have lots of good books which show all sorts of diverse cultures and ones that counteract gender stereotypes? Do the pictures on our walls include people of various ethnic groups? Do our children see positive images of people with handicaps? Do they have opportunities for positive contacts with such people?
This story is called My First Kwanzaa Book. And we did some Kwanzaa activities today. Did everybody help with the planting? Yeah, we planted some plants. That was to talk about a Kwanzaa day that celebrates purpose and activity and being busy. And we made some food, didn't we?
We regularly offer the opportunity for discussion and activities about our children's cultural and gender identity. But keep in mind that even though inclusion of materials and activities is important, this kind of thing is just the beginning. It just scratches the surface. What really matters is the respect and liking teachers model when dealing with the other adults and children. So far, we've seen a number of ways to promote a positive attitude towards cultural diversity by highlighting cultural heritage and individuality. Our second aim is to emphasize that no matter what culture one is from, all children share common needs and characteristics. Children not only need to have their cultural uniqueness welcomed and valued, they also need to realize that different people have many things in common and that they are all alike in some fundamental ways. In other words, we're all different, and yet we are all the same color inside.
What are we having for lunch today?
One way to teach our similarities with each other is to emphasize the commonality of biological and psychological needs. For example, if we're talking with a group of children about favorite foods, we can make the point of reminding them that no matter what specific things we like to eat best, all children get hungry, and all people can enjoy eating food together. We can also deal with emotions in the same way. No matter who we are, everyone feels mad sometimes. Most people want to have friends, and most everyone feels a little upset when their mothers leave them at school.
Flannery's going to watch Tiara. Tiara, come here.
I had it first.
Oh, you guys have to take turns. Let's make a line, and then we can all...
We can also teach children to consider the rights and needs of everyone. By developing a program based on positive interaction and multiculturalism, we teach our children that everyone has the same basic rights and privileges, and everyone is treated fairly at school. The social goals most important to emphasize in relation to cross-cultural education are developing empathy for how other people feel, learning that everyone has rights that are respected by all, and gaining social skills by cooperating, rather than only by competing and winning out over others. It's also important, when providing a cross-cultural education, to ensure that your children experience a non-sexist classroom as well. Now, what does that mean? Well, for starters, all the children in our care, girls and boys, must be encouraged equally to explore the full range of their abilities, feelings, and potential. In the life of the whole child, long gone are the days when girls were not encouraged to play in sports or hammer away with tools, and boys were discouraged from playing house or, heaven forbid, having fun with dolls.
Well, you hear, we're playing with the trucks, girls can't play with the trucks, or boys can't play with dolls. And they do learn at a very young age those different kinds of behaviors. And it's important just for the teacher to reinforce that it's okay for Jimmy to be playing with a doll. And one thing that happens in dramatic play a lot is the boys will sometimes put on a dress or put on high heels. And we just need to provide an atmosphere, but that's okay, that you can pretend to be a girl or you can pretend to be a boy. And so it's important for the teacher to be there in the setting to provide that they're just trying out different roles.
In the world of the whole child, non-sexist education means enabling children of both sexes to step beyond narrowly restricted gender roles and stereotypes, and helping boys and girls understand and value their own biological uniqueness as males and females.
The boys do tend to gravitate to the more physical activities. We're not going to stop them from doing that. And we try to encourage the girls too. And then we have some girls who clearly, they know what they like. And all the goading, all the encouragement is not going to get them to leave housekeeping if that's where they want to be. And then there are some girls, there's nothing you can do to get them out of the big block area. So we let them play where they want.
In other words, no matter how politically correct we may want to be, boys are not girls, and girls are not boys.
Can I play math?
Biologically and physiologically, there are differences, and we need to appreciate and value them. For example, research has shown that the physical activity needs of most boys appear to be different from those of most girls. Like it or not, boys are more likely than girls to engage in more rough and tumble play. And more times than not, boys tend to be more overtly aggressive than girls are.
Oh, you know what?
Although all children need opportunities for vigorous physical activity, boys do seem to need it specially. Their play requires large, sturdy equipment, plenty of space, and a teacher who genuinely welcomes such activity, rather than regarding it as a threat to her ability to control the children. As I said, sometimes it can be a real tightrope walk trying to raise or teach a whole child, and it requires a careful balancing act on our part. On one hand, we have to avoid stereotyping, and on the other, we must guard against pushing our children into something that doesn't fit their distinct personalities. Like it or not, some girls will be more aggressive than others, some less. Some boys will be more passive, some less. And that's okay, because if we learned anything in this series, and especially this program, you can't pigeonhole a whole child, and labels, when we try to apply them, just won't stick.
It helps also that, the parents are helpful in that area too. Everything that we do, multicultural, it won't mean anything if the parents are completely closed against it. But I think it maybe allows the children to be a little more accepting of other people's differences. Like the children in our classroom, they're very accepting of our special needs children. They don't look at these children as they're different, they can't do this or they can't do that. They're very helpful to them. When one of our special needs children is having trouble with something, another child will go over there and help him out. Or they'll tell a teacher and say, he's having trouble with that. And even so, just to acknowledge that differences aren't, to be different isn't to be bad.
I'm a girl lion.
There's nothing complicated or especially difficult about teaching in a non-sexist, multicultural environment.
My grandma, she had this, remember those collars?
Yes.
Well, she had one, but it was square around the neck, kind of.
Oh, that's okay. If that's what you want to wear, that'll be perfect. You can make one like that.
Our goal is simply to help each of our children build a foundation of positive attitudes towards themselves and towards people who are different.
Save it for me.
A foundation based on our 4 principles of equity.
To school. Okay?
Oh, I was brushing my teeth. So much fun. I never let the water.
That every young person has the unique and treasurable gift of individuality to share with others.
So much fun. Oh, I never let the water run. No, I never let the water run. Really good
That no matter how unique or different a person is, we each share basic human needs in common with everyone else.
You can't do this. Oh, yes, I can. Look.
That all children, no matter their sex, color, abilities, or cultural group, should be encouraged to explore the full range of their abilities and potential. And finally, that every individual is part of a cultural group that has many special qualities to share with others.
Well, one of the things that we do is we have a parent who speaks Spanish, and he comes in and he counts with the children. He counts the alphabet. He tells us little stories. He tells us little jokes. And they see that there's another language beside their own language. They ask questions, and they begin to copy and imitate what they've heard. Bringing in grandparents, we often do that to read. Some children don't have grandparents, so it kind of gives them a feel for what it's like to have a grandparent, and it broadens their horizons, and they love it.
Children are like fingerprints. No one is quite like the other. Each one is different, distinct, individual, special. And yet, in so many ways that are just as important, we all are as much alike as we are different. And the good news is, we don't have to teach all this by ourselves. Let's keep in mind that the most significant sources of learning about other cultures comes from the families of our children. By encouraging children and their families to share their values, language, and customs, we can provide an invigorating, loving cross-cultural link between home and school, and ultimately a link of acceptance and tolerance the child will carry to adulthood. I'm Joanne Hendrick. See you next time on The Whole Child.
For young children, play is important business. Creativity comes from more than crayons, paint, and paste. It can be nurtured in many forms. How to teach children to express themselves through creativity and play. Next time on The Whole Child.
Funding for this program was provided by the Annenberg CPB Project.
For information on this program and others in the Annenberg CPB collection, call 1-800-LEARNER.
This is PBS.
Funding for this program was provided by the Annenberg CPB project.
Can the art on this child's face tell you what is going on in his life?
I'm a cat.
Oh, is that a
dog?
Oh, dog.
Creativity is more than crayons, paint, and paste.
How does a fish sound?
Creativity is the freest form of self-expression, and the creative process is more important than the finished product.
And the father said, it's dinner time.
There is nothing more satisfying and fulfilling for children than to be able to express themselves openly, fully, freely.
I'm inside the house. I'm inside the house. Okay, Papa.
Hello, I'm Joanne Hendrick, author of The Whole Child and your guide to this video series. Over the years, we've learned that the experiences children have during their first years of life can do so much to advance the development of their creativity. We'll observe children in a number of different centers, Head Start, family daycare homes, university schools, and private child care centers. The question is, what can we do as caregivers to help foster and reinforce young children's natural abilities to think and express themselves creatively? When our children create something of their own, out of their own feelings and experiences, something wonderful happens.
Tell me about this that you built.
This is my house. Only one person can go in.
Only one person can go in?
Only two people because my cat.
And more, we're discovering that the ability to be creative not only can reflect, but also do much to nurture the emotional health in our children.
Your cat came back.
This program has 3 goals: to understand the importance of creativity in the lives of our children and why it is so necessary for us to nurture it, to understand the value and importance of play in fostering creativity, and to offer you some practical teaching methods and ideas which can help you support, extend, and enhance your children's development of creativity and of play. Whenever we make something out of nothing, we are being creative. Whenever we make something new out of something old, or something whole out of other parts or fragments of something else, then that's being creative too. Look, a painter once said in a Broadway musical, "I made a hat where there was no hat." That kind of pride and feeling of accomplishment is the essence of the creative process. And it doesn't take a lot of fancy toys, tools, or equipment to enjoy it. All children need to be truly creative is the freedom to give it their all, to commit themselves completely to the effort and make whatever activity they are doing their own. It's not our project, it's theirs. Why do you think this is so important? It's not always easy, but it's so important to remember that in art or any other creative activity, what's important is the process of self-expression, not how good or bad we think the work is. Creative experiences can help children both express and cope with their feelings.
I got the pizza.
Creativity also fosters mental growth in children by providing opportunities for trying out new ideas and new ways of thinking and problem solving.
Do you need this? No, I need a white hammer. White hammer. Here. I got one. I got some 50 money.
The teacher is there to help, but during this creative experience, the child is in the driver's seat.
You can do it on your nose, and you can do it on your chin, and you can do it on your cheeks.
And here too,
On your leg. You gotta put some on your leg.
Creative activities help acknowledge and celebrate the uniqueness and diversity of each of our children, as well as offer excellent opportunities to individualize and personalize our teaching and to focus on each child.
Here.
I'm gonna put mine.
You're gonna paint on your leg too?
Notice how in this classroom, materials and activities that depend on open-ended answers allow each child to be herself, to express her own unique and individual ideas, and how the teacher is responding individually, one-on-one, to each of the children's efforts.
And I see red, and I see black, and I see blue. And your leg.
But it takes more than access to art materials and activities for self-expression to take place. Creativity is more than that. To truly reap all the benefits of the creative process, our children also need plenty of opportunities for creative play and thinking too.
I'm a cat.
Oh, is that a
cat?
dog? Oh, a dog. How does a dog sound?
Woof, woof.
Great job. How does a fish sound?
Try a smaller one.
Good job.
There you go.
That's how a fish sounds.
But where do we start? How do we even begin tapping into our children's creativity and and help them fulfill their need for self-expression. We can start by providing activities that are based on the children's interests and ideas.
This player is a player.
You didn't paint no stars and no hands?
No.
This means learning how to listen intently to what our children are saying during group time and during play.
You were playing with me.
Yeah, I was teasing you.
Why were you
It may
teasing
even be
me?
helpful to tape record and transcribe the children's conversations, as well as take notes, and then review them with your co-teachers.
I made a picture for you. That's you. That's
You made a picture for me?
Yeah.
We can offer children a wide range of creative materials and experiences. Being creative is more than drawing or painting pictures or playing with Play-Doh. There's also photography, music, field trips, working with wire, clay, paper, wood, water, or shadows, just to name a few ideas.
Give me another color.
Okay, Khalil, could you pass the red to Jamie? Khalil, could you pass the red down to Jamie?
I think it's going to turn into something else.
You think it will turn to something else? What do you think?
We can provide children with lots of time to explore materials and pursue their ideas. This includes time to think about how to plan, design, construct, experiment, and revise project ideas. And don't forget to build in time to talk these ideas over with other people, both teachers and children.
Can you see a rainbow too, Jordan?
And the lights are rainbow.
The lights turn into rainbows. That's right. You made a rainbow using your prism.
You try it.
Okay, I'll try it. Let
You'll
me
be
see if I can
surprised
see it.
how many new ideas and approaches can come from these discussions.
Oh, I do see a rainbow. It's very pretty.
In and out of the classroom, we should look for ways to provide multi-ethnic, multicultural, and other community experiences for our children.
And you know what? We're going to have a very special visit today from Linda in the butterfly room. Did you know that Linda is Chinese? She's going to come over. She's going to cook with us today.
Yeah, we need to put it on.
We've learned that the more variety of experiences children have in their lives, the wider the range is of creative expression. The more personal experiences our children have with people and situations outside of their own environment, the more material our children can draw on to incorporate in their play.
And the father said, "It's dinner time, it's dinner time, it's dinner time."
Our challenge is to try not to be afraid or intimidated by the variety and diversity of artistic expression in our classroom.
Come inside the house. Okay, Papa. Come inside the house.
Remember, creativity in the classroom is a child's way of expressing his or her own feelings and thoughts about the world, not yours. It breaks my heart to see classroom displays of so-called children's art that all look identical. When I see such cookie-cutter results, I can't help but wonder whose thoughts and ideas are being expressed, ours or theirs.
Clone activities. Activities where everybody makes the same thing. The teacher has cut out all the patterns, and everybody has to put the eyes here and put the eyes there. That's dominating. You're telling them what to do. The best thing to do is to put the materials out and let them go for it. They will create their own play, their own structures, their own artwork. They will create themselves.
Even though we may intellectually understand and appreciate the benefits of encouraging children's creative expression, why do you think some of us may still have a hard time in this area? There are lots of reasons. Maybe we don't feel creative ourselves. Creativity can be a sloppy business. Maybe we don't feel comfortable with the mess and the materials. Or maybe, because we're teachers and not professional artists, we're intimidated by the creative process. These concerns are understandable, but not to worry. Although the creative journey can be messy, unpredictable, and many times beyond our control, there's so much we can do to make the trip less bumpy.
Well, you
picture of anything that you'd like to see, and then after you're done, you can tell me what it is, and I'll write it down.
We can let the child tell us what he or she is creating rather than guessing. Can you guess why this technique works so well with children? It's happened to all of us. How many times have we risked hurting a child's feelings or offending a child simply because we guessed wrong and didn't share the child's vision of the work? The other trap we sometimes catch ourselves in is when we attempt to judge, evaluate, or compare our children's different creative expressions. Why do you think this can do more harm than good?
Well, one thing I have learned is not to say, oh, look at da. I like the da. I don't give a label. I've learned not to give a label to children's drawings. Instead, I ask them, tell me about your picture. Or I might describe the colors. Oh, I like the bright yellow that you used, or whatever. But allowing them to tell me what it is, because it may not be anything close to what I think it may be.
There are so many ways we can help nurture the creative process. Notice how this teacher isn't interfering with the creative process. She isn't telling the children what or what not to draw. Why do you think this technique is so effective with children? A little assistance and direction can be helpful, but we must also be careful not to interfere with our children's creative explorations. Forcing the children to copy what we want them to do defeats the whole purpose of self-expression. A copy is not an original. Encouraging children to make their own choices is important. What else can you do, or not do, to help foster creativity in your classroom?
Make the hole bigger or smaller to make your finger fit.
Why do you think children should be permitted frequent opportunities and lots of time to experience and explore expressive materials? Why is that important? Why do you think we should put so much emphasis on the process of creativity and not on the finished product? Why is this so important?
You made lots of big ones. Wow.
Remember, creativity is a journey, not a destination. And what our children learn and discover about themselves along the way is the point, not whether they arrive. We can show our support for the creative process by appreciating and offering support for our children's efforts. Independence and control are important components in the creative process. Why do you think this is especially true when working with children with disabilities or special needs? One of the most important types of creative activity for young children, which many of us often overlook, is creative play. Creative play is expressed mainly in two ways. One, when children use familiar materials in a new or unusual way. And two, when children engage in role-playing and imaginative play. Imaginative play. Remember when we used to call it pretending? Notice how the teacher in this classroom has taken herself out of the activity and is content to teach by sitting back and watching what her children come up with on their own. Nothing reinforces the creative spirit and nourishes a child's soul more than providing large blocks of time to engage in spontaneous, self-directed play throughout the day.
Yes, you can. Oh.
Should I get it?
But be prepared to respond to those parents and others who may believe play is a waste of time and that children would be better off really learning something or doing something more productive. Play is the serious business of young children, and the opportunity to play freely is vital to their healthy development. Yet many of us misunderstand and underestimate the value of play in the lives of our children, forgetting that play helps a child's physical development, play fosters mental development, play enhances social development, play helps children express, relieve, and cope with their feelings. Play helps develop each child's unique perspective and individual style of creative expression. Play especially provides an excellent opportunity for integrating and including children with disabilities in your program.
Okay, go.
Play is so important in sustaining the creative spirit that I want to explore each one of these points a little further. Even as early as infancy, play fosters physical development. On a very simple level, it promotes the development of sensory exploration and motor skills. Through play and the repetition of basic physical skills, children perfect their abilities and become competent at increasingly difficult physical tasks. Play fosters mental development and new ways of thinking and problem solving. Blocks are often underused in children's programs, and sometimes there aren't enough blocks to support children's play sufficiently. Here we see how a simple item like little wooden cubes can stimulate a child's imagination. Through their block play, children are confronted with many mental challenges having to do with measurement, equality, balance, shape, spatial relationships, and physical properties.
Hey, look at this.
One of the strongest benefits of play is the way it enhances social development. And once again, playful social interactions begin practically from the moment of birth. Dramatic play helps children experiment with and understand social roles. It also gives them countless opportunities for acquiring social skills as they play with others. Through dramatic play, children gradually learn to take each other's needs into account and appreciate different values and perspectives. Therapists have long understood the emotional benefit of play. Through play, children are able to express and cope with their feelings. Play also helps relieve stress and pressure for children. They can just be themselves. There's no need to live up to adult standards during play. Play offers children an opportunity to achieve mastery of their environment. When children play, they're in command. They make the choices. They control the experience through their imaginations, and they exercise their powers of choice and decision-making as the play progresses.
Wait, let's put some coffee. I'm gonna put some coffee. I'm gonna put some coffee.
Play helps develop each child's unique perspective and individual style of creative expression. Play, which arises from within, expresses the child's personal, unique responses to the environment. Play is a self-expressive activity that draws on the child's powers of imagination. Play is open-ended, free-form, and children have the freedom to try out new ideas as well as build on and experiment with the old. Play especially provides an excellent opportunity for integrating and including children with disabilities in your program.
Oh, I think I hear the siren on Zach's fire truck.
The opportunities play provides for control and independence are important issues for any child, but are especially important for these youngsters.
Thank you, Monica.
Let's review what we've learned about fostering creativity in our children. So far, in this program, we've looked at the importance of creativity in the lives of our children. And we've examined the many ways creative play is important in the lives of children. Now that we know how important play is, what are some of the ways we can encourage it in our classrooms?
You've got to have it bigger, okay?
As caregivers, we must be careful to avoid dominating the play ourselves. Play should be the result of the children's ideas and not directed by the adult. Through play, we should try to foster children's abilities to express themselves. We should also try to help children base play on their own inspirations, not ours. Our goal is to stimulate play, not control it, and to encourage children's satisfaction in playing with each other, or by themselves. Notice how this teacher is stimulating and extending the play by asking questions. Why is this important? What else do you think you could do to stimulate and extend play in your classroom? Pay attention to play. Plan for it. Encourage it. Learn how to extend children's play through our comments and questions. Stimulate creative ideas by encouraging children to come up with new and unusual uses of equipment. We should try to remain open to new and original ideas and encourage children to come up with more than one solution or answer. Be careful about over-restricting equipment.
Now let's eat. You're a very hungry girl today, aren't you, little kitty?
What will you do, Jordan?
Kitty!
And make sure to have play materials quickly available when children want them.
Learning something creative, I think, specifically I think of, it goes back to, you know, your room environment and setting things up. And I try to get areas next to each other that lend themselves to each other, to the interaction, and specifically the block area and the housekeeping, dramatic play area, because they both lend themselves so well to each other. And day in and day out, I see things happening in there that are really very creative.
We should provide children with a good range and balance of equipment, and we should try to keep equipment exciting by changing it frequently or changing its location. Let's review what we've learned about fostering creativity in our children. We know that creativity is important because it helps our children express and cope with their feelings. Creative experiences help children's mental development and problem-solving skills. Creativity helps children experience and celebrate their own diversity, uniqueness, and individuality. And we've learned how essential and important play is in fostering creative development. There is much we can do to foster children's creativity. For example, we can provide children with activities that are based on children's own ideas and personal interests. We can offer children a wide range of creative materials, equipment, and experiences. And we can allow children lots of time to pursue their ideas and explore materials. We've also learned several teaching techniques and methods which can be used to help provide support and extend and enhance our children's development of creativity and play. Permit frequent opportunities and lots of time to experience and explore expressive materials. Emphasize the creative process, not the product. Think of creativity as a journey, not a destination. It isn't always easy, but we must practice interfering as little as possible. Forcing children to copy what we want them to make defeats the whole purpose of self-expression. Show encouragement by appreciating and offering support for your children's efforts. Let the children tell you what they are creating. If you guess wrong, children might be hurt or offended that you don't share their vision of the work. And let's be careful not to judge, evaluate, or compare our children's creative expressions. At this age, what's important is the process of self-expression, not how good or bad we think the work is. Play and the effective use of creative self-expressive materials provide the backbone of the young child's day. Creative play and self-expressive activities provide a number of important benefits for the developing child. Those of us who care for young children should keep in mind the many advantages of encouraging play and self-expression, not the least of which is that they provide endless opportunities to experience joy and delight, not only for the children, but for ourselves as well. I'm Joanne Hendrick. I hope you'll join us next time on The Whole Child.
Every child needs to let others know what he is thinking. Learning language is a remarkable process. It starts long before a toddler speaks his first word. How can parents and other caregivers help? Let's talk about it. Next time on The Whole Child.
Funding for this program was provided by the Annenberg CPB project.
For information on this program and others in the Annenberg CPB collection, call 1-800-LEARNER.
This is PBS.
Funding for this program was provided by the Annenberg CPB project.
Communication skills are so important to a growing child.
Yeah. Can you say hi in Hungarian? Oh, you're going to say hi. Wave your hand high.
There's more and more evidence suggesting that having a good command of language goes hand in hand with the ability to imagine and to think up new ideas.
What do you think would happen if you had pigs in your room?
I would kick them out.
You would kick them out?
Hello, I'm Joanne Hendrick, author of The Whole Child and your guide to this video series. In this program, we're going to look at not only traditional ways we can help our children learn language, but we'll also explore some interesting new ideas about laying foundations for later success in reading and writing. It's an area of study we call emergent literacy, and I think you'll find it fascinating and helpful. As always in this series, we'll observe children in a number of different programs: Head Start, family daycare homes, university schools, and private child care centers. And we'll listen to their teachers as they describe some of the methods they use to enhance children's language and literacy development.
No way.
The task of learning all the intricacies of language can be a daunting one, and it doesn't always go smoothly for our children or for us.
So about five.
As caregivers, we play such an important role in helping our children learn to be fluent, to communicate with others,
That's 60.
and eventually to read and write.
Use your words, Adrian. Tell Lee there's my beans. My beans.
I think it's a really wonderful way to help children express what they know in terms of experiences. If they go to the grocery store, then if we set up a grocery store for dramatic play, it helps them role play. And I think it helps them to become aware more as they're able to act it out of what they've experienced. They were aware of it, but not really that cognizant. But when they get into the role play themselves, then they have a greater picture of that experience. And it helps their language. I think it helps their interactions with other children.
Like how you used your words, Justin. Not Daniel.
You have to learn how to negotiate. You have to verbally as well as in your actions. And you have to be a creative person in that sense if you're going to be able to work with others and communicate with others. And I think it's just a valuable experience for them.
How can we help the children in our care develop their ability to talk, think, and express their ideas to the fullest? And not only that, how do we encourage them to listen to other people?
Is that a train track? And the pigs are playing with his toys. Would you be upset if some pigs came in your room and were playing with your toys? Do you think they'd break them?
Yeah.
What do you think would happen if you had pigs in your room?
I would kick them out.
You would kick them out?
We have 4 simple goals in this program: to understand and appreciate the relationship of speech and language to the thought process, to learn new ways we can help foster the development of language and thought in our children, to understand and appreciate the value of language differences among the children in our care, to learn how to foster emergent literacy skills as foundations for reading and writing.
You need to look at your food. How does that taste? Sounds good. Sure sounds.
Language is so much more than the memorization of grammatical rules or learning the ABCs.
You would like more?
Orange.
Orange. You're right. That's what it is. It's an orange. More orange? Do we have more orange? How about a cracker? Here's a cracker. Just take one. Okay. How about a cracker? One. Oh, you dropped it on the floor?
Real language is also the give and take interaction that occurs when people actually try to reach out and communicate with each other, to let others in on what we're thinking, what we're feeling, and what's on our minds.
What you see? What you see? What do you see? Listen at you. Listen at you. You're giggling. You're giggling. Evelyn.
Did you notice the way this caregiver used very high pitch and then varied the range of pitch from high to low? She also spoke slowly, distinctly, and she repeated words and phrases. This is so important because sometimes we forget that just because babies don't use formal language, that doesn't mean they don't understand exactly what we're saying. By using a special form of language, adults help babies learn that there is a sense of mutual trust and interest, that taking conversational turns is important, and that by pausing and paying attention to the other person, we can respond to what they're saying.
Hi. He has not eaten this morning. He was a good little boy.
Don't underestimate their comprehension. Children understand a lot of what's said long before they can reply in words. Talking about babies right in front of them and assuming they don't understand conveys a sense of disrespect to them. We wouldn't treat adults or older children that way, and we shouldn't do it to our infants either.
Hi, cutie. Hi.
We're constantly singing and talking and showing and exploring. That's a big word that we use in our room, is exploring. They are such little explorers. They're learning how to do so much. And, you know, a lot of people say that babies aren't talking. They're not, but they are. I mean, you can just see it every day. They're singing their cues when they smile at you. I mean, to me, that is talking. That is, you know, that is their way of showing me that they're happy. Or even when they cry. You know, obviously they need something. You know, and we'll change the situation to see what they need.
I'm
What?
going to go to the zoo and see all the animals.
You're gonna go to the zoo and see all the animals? What's your favorite animal at the zoo? Can I come? What will we see there?
You'll see. There's lots of stuff in there.
Lots of stuff? Like what kind of stuff?
Can't look.
Can't look.
I think the most vital thing to stress about language development is the value of conducting a true conversation with children. This means listening with sincere interest, responding in a way that will enhance and continue conversation, and allowing children time to formulate their ideas and answers. Waiting for replies is one of the most important things we can do to encourage language growth. In other words, we need to slow down and take time to really listen to what our children have to say.
His father said, "I'm afraid it won't come up."
He's watering it.
Do you think he's going to water it? Let's see.
Take a look at this classroom. What's the first thing you see the teacher doing to help move the learning process along?
Do you think it's going to come up?
No. Yeah.
Leah, you said yes. Why do you think yes, it will come up?
Because he pulled the weeds and it watered, because baby the carrot said, "Baby, those people don't know I'm going to come up."
How do you think this is helping her children learn to communicate, not only with her, but with other children in the group? Once again, one of the best things we can do for our children is to listen to them. And I mean really listen. I've seen a lot of teachers, especially those who are new and nervous, spend so much time talking, or worse yet, answering their own questions, that the children can hardly get a word in edgewise. Let's look for opportunities to give our children something real to talk about. It's so easy for a child's attention to wander when we expect them to talk about something abstract or vague, or something they've never experienced in real life. Children's talk should be based on solid, real, lived-through experiences.
Well, Cocoons, what you doing over here? Are you at the pond now? Yes. You're building a pond?
Yeah.
What kind of things live at your pond?
For example, asking children to discuss ways they could get water to the sandbox extends their problem-solving abilities while keeping the subject both real and relevant to them. What's more, they can make it even more real by trying out their ideas to see if they actually work. Encourage conversation between children. Enhancing a child's language development doesn't mean that we have to be continually asking questions or even talking. We can encourage children to ask questions of each other and engage in interesting conversations among themselves.
No, you go to Chelsea. Then you go to Chuck E. Cheese. I'm not going to Chuck E. Cheese. Only to church. Where did you get that thing?
Can you tell us about it?
See, I ran 4 miles.
4 miles? That is really far.
So there's a lot of water in case we got thirsty.
Oh, good. So they had water? Did you get to stop every once in a while?
Yeah, and get some water.
Oh, good idea.
But there were sprinklers every time, and we got the ran through.
Whoa.
And then every time when I got water, I splashed it down.
I bet that felt really good.
Encourage conversation and dialogue between teachers and children. There's so much more to language development than learning to name colors or objects on demand. The skills involved in discussion and conversation are vital too. and we should give our children opportunities to practice these skills as well.
Nothing.
Ask open-ended questions, questions that require more than a yes or no answer.
What did you get a trophy for?
I got it from bowling.
Bowling?
The bowling party.
Questions where the teacher doesn't already know the answer.
Gold medal.
How do you know you can get a gold medal from ice skating?
Answering open-ended questions presents excellent opportunities for children to generate speech and develop language because they're engaged in dialogue and sharing ideas rather than simply responding yes or no to a question.
For what?
Them father, right up to your chin, chin, chin. Open wide your little mouth, but do not let them in. Ábrelos y ciérralos, ábrelos y ciérralos. Give one great big clap. Ábrelos y ciérralos, ábrelos y ciérralos. Place them on your lap, lap, lap.
A few words about bilingualism. There's no finer way to honor a child's ethnic or cultural background than by welcoming and encouraging her to use her native language or dialect at school. Of course, sometimes this is easier said than done. In the real world, we're often torn in two directions on this question. On the one hand, we want to make the child feel welcome and facilitate the child's learning as best we can by using language she can understand. On the other hand, it is also true that the United States is an English-speaking country, and to get along in our society, children must be able to speak English and speak it well. But speaking English doesn't mean you have to give up speaking the other language. In today's world, speaking more than one language is an asset, and bilingual people are in demand and command good salaries, so it makes good sense to preserve this skill.
Oh, you're telling me about the money that you might put in a little teeny hole to get something special at the grocery store? Yeah?
Some food.
Some food?
And English.
And that's English. You're talking in English. You know how to talk in Hungarian, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you say hi in Hungarian? Oh, you're going to say hi. Wave your hand high. That says hi in Hungarian or in English.
Even when we are not multilingual and don't speak the child's language, we can at least learn a few essential words and phrases, including, and most especially, the correct pronunciation of the child's and family's names.
Can you say umoja?
Umoja.
Uh-huh. And I help light the colorful Kwanzaa candles. Do you remember when we talked about Hanukkah? And
The whole point of speaking and communicating with one another is to share, to bring us closer together, to open up and include others in our world, and vice versa.
Can you say Kwanzaa?
Kwanzaa.
Can you say Swahili?
Swahili.
Swahili is an African language, and those are African words.
Okay, Miss Anu, are you ready? You
Yeah.
can take over. Let's go.
1, 2, 3, go. Kumbaya.
The most important thing for children to learn about school is that it's a place where they feel warm and comfortable, a place they want to come back to. Including songs and stories in the child's native language, using multi-ethnic pictures, and observing cultural customs not only honors the family by using the language and customs of the home at school, it also does much to foster the children's language and communication skills.
Hey, that's Zoe's.
Where's Charlie?
This is Zoe.
Who's Charlie?
That is
Who's
Zoe.
that?
That's Zoe.
Is that you? Oh, it is. Wow. Find your eyes. Are they the same eyes?
Yep.
Wow.
It
that's
looks
neat.
like this is a big kid.
It looks like that's a big kid. You are a big kid.
But speaking is only one form of communicating. Reading and writing are also an essential part of the language process, and the preschool years play a vital role in laying the sound foundation of skills on which future literacy is built. Perhaps now is a good time to talk in more detail about the need and value of a new area of preschool learning we call emergent literacy. Emergent literacy means that in order to learn the arts of reading and writing, young children must first acquire many foundation concepts and strategies that will help literacy emerge. This foundation is just as important as the final strategies needed for actual reading and writing later on.
Friends, what does our chart say up here?
Helping hands.
Helping hands, and these are our jobs. What's our first job that we have this morning? The leader. I need to pick a leader this morning. Let's see whose turn it is this morning.
Me.
This friend, right here. Who is this? Look at this name. Starts with an M-A-R-Y. Who is that?
M-A-R-Y.
Oh, Mary's our leader today. What does Sharad start with, friend? S. Sharadi, will you do the calendar for us today? All right. What's our next job? Jacqueline. Fish feeder, right? How do you know that's Yemisi's name?
Because he starts with a Y.
Because Yemisi starts with a Y.
And
a M.
Can you read it to me? Read it to me.
An emergent literacy program means setting up the environment and activities to inspire an appreciation for words, storytelling, and communication in all their forms.
And where's the birch?
At the park?
But while reading lots of wonderful books to our children is essential, there's much more to literacy besides books.
Should we read it? Let's read it.
Yeah.
When I grow up, my job will be to go to school and to drink and eat. I will sell money if I pay money. If you go to the store, if you buy food, I can play on the big swing if I pay money. If you don't, you'll have to go to jail. It's at Central Park. We can eat on a picnic. All right. Anything else?
We can also convey to our children how satisfying and useful the written word is throughout the entire day. We can do this by writing down children's stories at group time, taking their dictation as they paint, helping children dictate and decorate letters to each other or to their parents, or adding written materials such as signs, phone books, and menus to their pretend play.
Are you ready for me to write down what you see? What did you see? A purple cat. A purple cat? Okay. It's going to say Camming.
Yeah, okay. Put some chalk on the bottom. You're going to write your mom. I'll write mom's name. And you can draw a picture for her. M-O-M.
That's right.
That's your mom.
The key point of emergent literacy learning isn't only that it's so interactive, but that it's so participatory. The children guide and help direct what they want to say, deciding with the teacher what's important to them and what they want to talk about and describe. The message we want to communicate to the children is that learning isn't unpleasant work. It can have richly satisfying rewards.
Part of is the bars.
And it's an individualized internal process, not something that can simply be imposed or directed from the outside. That's why it's so important to provide our children with plenty of opportunities for experimentation with reading and writing, drawing, scribbling, pretending to read, or repeating nursery rhymes, without pressure from anyone to do it right or correctly.
Can you sing it again? Yay!
One of the most important things we can do to assist our children in their emerging literacy skills is to advise and encourage parents and family members to regularly read out loud to their children. Center time is important, but the home is where so much of the real and lasting learning takes place.
Up to their bedrooms. Papa Bear looked in his bed, and it's going to sound good if you all help me in your great big Papa Bear voices. Let me hear you say, someone has been sleeping in my bed.
Let's review some of the key ideas we've discussed in this program. We've learned how we can foster children's language development by really listening to them and waiting for their replies. We can provide meaningful and real experiences for them to talk about. We can encourage conversation by using open-ended questions, as well as having children talk to each other, not just to their teachers. We can honor and encourage the expression of each child's native language and culture while teaching standard English at the same time.
Muy bien, gracias. Y usted. Y usted.
Very good.
Give yourself a hand. Okay, do your hello song. Get your hello hands ready. Martin. Ready? Hello, hand. Ready? Hello, 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 how are you? I'm fine, I'm fine. I hope that you are too. Hola, hola, ¿cómo está usted? Muy bien, y espero tú también.
And of course, we've talked about how we can encourage the development of emergent literacy in our children by creating a classroom rich with printed words and materials, sharing the joy of reading, by using drawing, painting, and dictation to help give voice to our children's stories and experiences, and most importantly, we can encourage parents and family members to share the pleasure of reading out loud to their children every day.
Says he likes to play in the block area, and Zach is the square friend. What friend is this? This is Tiara Fuller. And where does Tiara like to play? Look, you're right, she's hearing a story in the quiet area, just like you like to do. And Tiara is the what? What friend? She is the duck friend.
These suggestions for encouraging children's language are especially important when working with children who have special needs.
Sometimes I even show put their hands on my neck, and I say, feel that? That's a voice. That's sound. You know, that's talking. And I have the little hand up there. And if you do it to yourself, you can feel the motion. And they begin to, I had one kid, at first he was so scared, and I kept saying, see, I'm talking to you. I want you to talk back to me. I was trying to get him to say, apple. And the vibration from up here, he could feel it. And every day, he would not say it for a long time. He just let me put his hand up here. Apple. Every day we review it. And finally, and I was so shocked, but consistency of effort, he came out. He put his hand up here to his neck, and he said, apple. Great! Yes, yes! That was my expression, you know, and my aid. And after that, he started using his voice, and I also emphasized to him, I said, you talked. You said, apple. You talked. Yes! You know, like that. And he was like, apple, all day long. All day long.
Turn, Lasagna. Zach, turn around so your friends can see. What did you pull out? You know what that is?
Scarf.
A scarf. Where do you wear a scarf?
When cold.
You wear it.
Children with language delays and children who are hearing impaired should be particularly included in group activities that stimulate and encourage verbal expression. The more experiences children with special needs have where they engage in exchanges of ideas with their peers, the more their language will be enhanced. Our challenge is to make learning how to speak and communicate a personal and not a cookie-cutter experience. This means, whenever possible, allowing each child in our care to develop their speech and language skills at their pace, with the understanding that professional intervention may be necessary if certain developmental milestones are not reached. In the universe of the whole child, there are as many ways to learn as there are children to teach. I'm Joanne Hendrick. See you next time on The Whole Child.
For young children, learning is a joy. Each day brings new discoveries and opportunities. We can make the most of this enthusiasm with everyday materials and experiences. How to develop our children's growing minds. Next time on The Whole Child.
What it does.
So he's lucky he has that fur. So it's for the cold, right? Yeah. What happens when it's really hot?
His fur grows short. That's what happens to doggies too. When it's cold, the furs grow long. All animals that have fur long in the winter and short in summer.
Funding for this program was provided by the Annenberg CPB Project.
For information on this program and others in the Annenberg CPB collection, call 1-800-LEARNER.
This is PBS.